Welcome back, everybody, to Salty Runback's coverage of the 2024 Collegiate Championships. We just saw our defending champions, University of St. Thomas, take a pretty dominant game one over SLU. Colin, we mentioned how the early game for UST was a priority, and boy, did they execute on it.
Yeah, it turns out when you basically ace the entire team and you kill Surdy level 1 and shut him out of the game, and he's 10 minutes with 3 CS a minute and no 2, pretty good. Good game plan. Do it again. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, USD was in the driver's seat basically that entire game. SLU had potential when Surdy was split pushing and he got an inhibitor and made the game kind of interesting, but USD was pretty standard, pretty in the driver's seat, I would say, the entire game. So good game one from them.
Yeah, it was a really solid game one. I mean, just the you said it in the pre-show, SLU, they've not loved lane swaps, and we saw why. Surdy still found massive impact on that Camille later on, despite what happened, but it just did not feel like the way that SLU wanted to play the game. And Marty, I know you had some thoughts as well. Later on in the game, St. Thomas made some mistakes, left the door open a little bit, but SLU was not quite able to seize them the way that they might have wanted.
Yeah, I mean, that last team fight is just a little bit too early of unengaged from SLU. Like, the coordination just wasn't there because Surdy was probably like, hey, I have TP and ult, like, we could just kill this guy and the game's over. But I think they realized pretty quickly, like, later in the game, they went, hey, guys, I'm pretty sure we outscale this team because we're starting to win on side lanes now. And then they just decided to go like, you know what? I want to get aced right now. It seems like a good time.
It was a good time for UST, at least, as they ended up winning that game, putting themselves one step closer to that grand final rematch against Maryville. We have the draft for Game 2 ready for us. The side's actually going to stay the same, as St. Louis, the higher seed, going to stay on blue side for both of these games. Colomer, you mentioned a couple of adjustments before we headed in that you wanted to see from SLU. I just want you to reiterate them for our audience watching at home.
Yeah, so I think SLU is definitely going to keep the ASOL and the Kindred bans. Like, those seem pretty targeted. Robbie Bob's ASOL obviously very good, and SLU has already been on the receiving end of a whooping from that one time, and obviously Ken v Kindred, everyone knows about that champ from him. I think SLU's entire game plan for draft, especially if you're picking blue, which means that you're going to have to blind top lane, if USC really wants to have counter, is you need to deny the lane swap. You need to be able to deny, like, with an Ashe ban away from Trevor, whatever other champions, like, Ashe should just cover it. But SLU is a team that 2v2, like, they should be happy about getting Surdy into the enemy top laner. Obviously, the course is very good, nothing against him, but SLU's entire identity for how they want to play the game and win games is going to be through Surdy. Even if you go back to the series we played against them, when we were able to get Surdy into 1v2s and basically get him behind or not really, like, enable him to play the game, we won those games. And when he was able to just play 1v1 into our team and, generate his own advantages and everything was stock standard, SLU won those games. So, obviously, I think ASOL ban on 3 here from SLU is probably going to be coming. And then UST, obviously, if they're able to get a lane swap, it's a good strategy in SLU. So we'll see if they're able to create that again for game 2. Ooh. Oh, ASOL's not banned. Wow.
Yeah, I would change nothing of how they pick their champions here. I would, like, if they go for the same early game comp again and they just decide I'm not going to fight early, I think they would have just been in such a way better spot instead of fighting 5v5 over Grubs when they have Galio, Skarner, like.
Should be Varus or Senate B1 potentially here. I will say, ASOL is going to be pretty interesting because I don't think Darkwings plays this champion. They've shown no prio on it. They banned it every single game, so it would not surprise me. Obviously, like, we might just see Ashe close to trade again once again. So, and the one thing that's personally that I really like this year with Ole Miss is that when we went for strategies like with lane swaps and stuff like that, having a mid that just ping pongs waves and scales really well into the late game. There's a lot of games, Marty can vouch for this, where we're just like, okay, well, we're going to lane swap, and worst case scenario, you can pick ASOL here, and then we'll just have scaling advantage. So
worst case, yeah. Bro, mid becomes an island, and you do nothing but farm for 15 minutes. You go nowhere, and you just, that's it. You just sit there.
Yeah, I am pretty interested that SLU thought that Skarner was the issue that game. I don't think that Skarner was really any reason for that game ending up the way that it did.
I agree.
Leaves a big door open.
A very similar start to this draft right now. It's going to be both the bottom lanes staying the same. So I think that means that if St. Louis, want to force the lane swap again, they will be able to. The question is, do you just sack it and elect to go into the 2v2? I don't know.
So you run into this issue, right, where if you're SLU, if you're Varus Nautilus, you're probably pretty happy with doing the lane swap, right? But again, it goes back to what I just said at the beginning of draft is you have Surdy on your team. Like, you don't want to swap in 1v2. You don't want him to be the Camille roaming mid with E and then falling down a ton of, like, golden XP. Cassante Prio is actually pretty
Did they just lock? What? But ASOL is still super chill here. I guess
it might get banned second phase. I don't
I
hate
think-
taking away Cassante. That champ is broken.
I think they're just like, oh, I have so many picks into Hui that I'm just like I'd rather have Porsche have his champion against the Surity because he's gonna absolutely demolish him in a 1v1 where he has like a good matchup. So they're just like, let's just give him his Cassante.
This
All right,
feels
let's
to
see
me.
Camille ban here, please.
This honestly feels to me like it is a result of this Garner ban because Porsche probably wants to get in on a safe blind tank, and with the Skarner getting removed, Cassante is really the only obvious choice left up and available, so they want to take that one before it could possibly get banned out. But, I mean, I'm going to be honest, for the side of Slew, you know, it's a similar composition getting run back, obviously going to the Hui instead of the Orianna, giving them a bit more long-range damage. But they need to decide how they want to play the game, right? Because running back the same bottom lane, they chose to swap in game 1 to dodge the Kalista Ashe. And it didn't work, right? They weren't able to play around Surdy. And I asked the question, you know, do you just say, hey, bot lane, good luck. You know, you guys got to go against the Kalista Ashe and suffer a little bit, but we get Surdy on a matchup. That's honestly what I would like to see Slew do this game.
Yeah,
because
Surdy's
Garen
going to pick
will
Vayne
be
here,
impactful.
for sure.
This
It would not surprise. Like, I would be shocked if Surdy's not picking Vayne here. Like, maybe he's picking Camille, but like, Surdy is telling Deus right now and call like, pick me Vayne, like please
Do it.
So I mean, again, like it'll be the same situation. Maybe they decide to not opt in into the swap this time, and because again, Slew was the one who initiated it. Yeah, there's Vayne told you. So this game, I would really like to see Slew just keep everything stock standard, and if anything, just play defensively, get defensive vision, and just try to deny USD the swap if they want it. Because I think if Surdy is Vayne top into Cassante and just running him over in that matchup, you're really, really happy. And if Vayne is running around just roaming mid to get chip damage onto Azir and he's not getting ahead, you're probably not really happy if you're Slay this game. So we'll see.
You're in the same exact situation as last game. Don't do anything for 20 minutes. The Drakes don't matter. The Grubs don't matter. You have 2 winning side lane matchups. You have Hui, which will do perfectly fine into Azir, and you have Vayne, who will always win against either of those in side lane.
Yeah.
I just want to say that the irony of hearing Marty say this after working with him the past 2 years and how he approaches the game, like that irony is not lost on me by any means at all, buddy.
Damn,
Crazy,
came
bro.
on the
I don't
desk
know.
just to get roasted. But Marty, you gonna take that or?
Hey, nah, whatever. It's
Hey, we
fast.
both lost. So.
Yeah, we lost. Hey, man, we lost together.
Hey, we'll let these two
07.
settle it as we head into the game. Thank you guys so much for your insight on the draft, for getting ready for game number 2 between Slew and UST. It's once again a good late game composition here for the Billikens, Hawk. We'll see if they can capitalize on it better this time around.
Yeah, it's another good late game composition, and it's another big early game comp for UST. Couple of key differences, though, Grapes, which is Robbie on the Azir instead of Galio. Much less of a facilitator, much more of a late game carry to potentially clutch up in some of those later game team fights. But on the other side for Kenby as well, with this Rek'Sai, much less of a carry for him. It's a better early game playmaker, but it does not have the same later game initiation or damage that can be had last time around. And I do think UST's composition struggles a little bit in the engage department, particularly later on in the game, because outside of Ashe Arrow, their engage revolves around throwing somebody's life into Slew, whether it's like an Azir shuffle or Rek'Sai flash knockup or what have you. Someone's got to get in there, right? And Slew with so much damage, it's not going to be very easy to pull off.
We see actually St. Louis opting for standard lanes right now, but USD going to respond by sending all 5 of their players towards the enemy topside jungle. So they're going to try to force vertical jungling and another lane swap situation here. So it's actually them this
so
time around
interesting.
that don't want the 2v2.
Yeah, this is so interesting for me because UST opting into the lane swap because this is kind of the you know, maybe suspicion that we had in game 1, Grapes, which was, you know, Slew went for the lane swap, and it put Surdy down to help out Aaron. But UST, clearly, they don't really care about Array and Trevor getting a lead. They want to keep Surdy down, right? So, I mean, we're going to get the second straight game of a lane swap, and I think this favors St. Thomas.
It will be the less tanky plates for St. Louis this time around. They'll be able to hopefully get a plate or two, depending on how Porsche ends up getting to the lane, how quickly they end up arriving to that location. We already see Surdy pathing towards the bottom side of the map, so I think for St. Louis it'll work out a little bit better, especially because we're already at this point in the game, and Surdy hasn't died yet.
That's true. Hey, Surdy not dying yet. That is good. He got his harass down onto the wolves and kept his life. Always gonna feel great. Unfortunately, he is a little bit homeless right now, Grapes. Robbie is chunked under his tower. There is no way we're looking for a dive here, right? I mean, maybe.
It would be maybe possible. Robbie
he's
Bob just
moving.
dinging level 3, so that makes things a little bit more difficult when he arrives
waving.
as well. Has that 3 talent strike prioed and ready to go underneath the wave. Robbie Bob using the shifting sands to get out. And Surdy still going to get taking tower shots, and that forces the flash out of Robbie Bob.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they wanted to get something for it. Surdy going to have his flash forced by Kenvi off the reset. Does mean that Winnie can get a jungle camp for himself on the way out, but both quadrants already gone in Slew's jungle does mean that Winnie might fall a bit behind for this play. Kenvi coming down to cover Porsche under the tower, and it just ends up being a big trade of summoner spells. I will say Robbie was forced to miss a bit of XP off of that dive, so it is at least something as Winnie caught with no flash.
Yeah, he's in a 1v3 situation right now. Trevor and Kenvi on the way. Trevor going to
Flash
flash just to initiate the slow. Will be helped out by Darkwings, who puts down that path for him and will make sure that when he survives. Here comes the rest of Slew. Skytech dashing forward onto the level 1. Trevor Ash, and will pick up first blood for St. Louis University.
This time it's St. Thomas that gets a little over-aggressive in the early stage. They thought they had the punish onto Winnie, but level 1 Ash, the slow is not really that substantial. Winnie just able to walk it out, and Skytech responding in kind with a flash of his own. First blood, I think it went over to Winnie. Just going to feel pretty good. Getting the big playmaker, the gold, to continue moving around the map and always have a gold advantage wherever you're taking the fight.
Yeah, allows Winnie to invade the bottom side jungle.
Found him
Trevor's
again.
still in trouble. He's still level 1. That means that he is very, very dead once again. This time it's Surdy picking up the kill, getting a kill before he gets a single CS. You don't see that every day.
Stop lane swapping! These teams are lane swapping and then fumbling the bag. The groceries are all over the floor, Grapes, because now it's Slew. They're the ones that get 2 kills. And as you alluded to earlier, you know, they have the easier plates to pick up. It's actually even in terms of plates, but Winnie ends up getting the camp advantage off of the first clear due to the death of the UST support. I mean, UST could have slowed down the game after thwarting the dive. Instead, they tried to accelerate. They have gotten massively punished, and just like in game number 1, it is the team that initiates the lane swap that is down 1,000 gold at 5 minutes.
And the funny thing is, I really thought this was a situation that UST could have taken advantage of, right? Like, they had Porsche down in the bottom lane soaking XP well before Surdy did once again. And if they just opted to stay in that situation and not make that play towards mid, I think they'd be in a much better spot with the Raid just being able to free hit onto that top lane turret. Instead, it's a 1,000 gold lead, 2 kill lead for St. Louis. Ooh. They're making their way back over to this first dragon. And UST not in a position to contest unless they want to burn that teleport from Porsche.
I mean, I know it's really early into this game, but man, UST's game state is cooked, Grapes. They have this composition that needs to snowball, and specifically stack dragons. We talked about some of the difficulties of not stacking dragons last game with the cross maps that Slew was able to find. Losing that first Drake, losing the gold advantage, they are running out of win conditions in this early game really quickly, and obviously still a lot of League of Legends left to be played. We know that these teams can get scrappy, but I mean, I said that Slew needs to have a better early game showing and not just rely on out team fighting their opposition if they're going to win this series. Clearly, they have the same thought.
Hey, working a little bit better than it did in game number 1. And we talked again about how UST had a very early game focused, lane state, game state. Take a look at Array, who was super far ahead at this point in game number 1. Now actually just about even with Aaron, who opted for a more defensive build because he knows he can scale into the game eventually. Going with those play to skill taps first. He's in a pretty good spot, and even though UST going to claim the grubs, Slew's in a very good position.
You want to talk about, differences from previous games as Winnie, he's dead.
Yeah, maybe getting caught out a little bit too much. The dash into the Emperor's Divide. Kenvi going to pick up the first kill of this game for the Celts.
Nice punish right there from UST, able to get one back for themselves and into Kenvi's back pocket. That should secure them the grubs as well, but I mean, Grapes, this perfectly goes into kind of what I was going to say. I mean, Robbie obviously helping in that kill, still making his presence felt, but a big story in the last time that these two teams met is, Robbie simply was the better mid laner, I would say.
Ooh, 2v2 now in the bottom lane. They throw Trevor out towards Aaron,
Level
but
3.
he does not land the knockup. The empowered arrow will take Trevor down for the 3rd time, and now it's Array stuck in a 1v2. Picks up one onto Aaron, but Skytech might have enough damage to take him down. Array forced to use the flash. It's a 1-for-1 down in the bottom side.
Winnie back onto the grubs. Should be able to take these ones away. I think Slew, they're going to be perfectly fine with everything that's been transpiring with that 1-for-1. I mean, yes, Aaron being the one that dies does mean he misses out, but it's pretty even. Now, Surdy's level 4.
Yeah, all out onto the Vayne, who does not have that final hour or either summoner spell. Kenvi forcing that dash away from Surdy. The Ghost used a little preemptively before that play really ended up unfolding. And now Winnie arriving back to this play. UST actually never finished the grubs, and so Winnie was able to pick up 2 of them. It will be at the cost of Surdy, potentially. He condemns Kenvi away. Now almost has that flash up. Can he buy enough time? Probably not. Winnie going to abandon his top laner. Pathmaker comes out. Porsche
what?
not landing the knockup, and Surdy somehow lives. What a great escape from the Slew top laner.
How did you let that happen? UST, they had him in the alcove. Somehow Surdy able to just walk it out and get away. Now, I will say, that is still a level 4 Vayne. 8.5 minutes into the game, we already saw Porsche with that big level lead take the all-in. So it still sucks. Surdy is very far behind in this game, which is not good news for Slew. That is the only win condition for them that is not exactly going according to plan so far. But, I mean, definitely that survival going to feel pretty good nonetheless. And Slew continuing to stay comfortable everywhere else. As I was going to say earlier, I mean, Darkwings up a couple of waves in CS. Hui into his ear. Favorable matchup for the Hui. Remember, this was Robbie opting into this matchup. It was a blind pick Hui that came out from Darkwings. And, you know, as I was saying earlier with Robbie, he was the better mid laner the last time these two teams faced. And that was a huge part of the reason why UST picked up that sweep. It is good to see Darkwings having a performance like this in Game 2.
Remember, was brought into the St. Louis team to reinvigorate that mid lane position. So far in this game, doing pretty well in terms of the CS department. And somehow, Hawk, this feels a little bit different than the last time these two teams played. You know, Slew has had winning game states against UST in the past, but including this series now, it is 8 straight game wins for UST against St. Louis, dating back to CLOL last year. However, we're in a position now where we can see this potentially be broken, and to me, this might be the best state that I've seen this team in, given the compositions that both of these teams have, as well as what has transpired in the early game.
And what we're seeing here, too, is I think part of the reason why I just thought the series would be closer than the last time is, you know, again, UST played exceptionally well, and they're a very, very good team. I picked them to win this series, right? However, I do feel like the sweep came from Slew's own shortcomings that we have largely seen them work on over the last couple weeks with their extra games that they've played in lower brackets. So, you know, having that opportunity to work on those, definitely going to help them out a lot. Unfortunately, it's not going to help Surdy in top lane as he is dead to rights. The Vayne is still getting shut down, and gold gap is closing in favor of the Celts for as much as we are talking up Slew.
Man, if you told me like 2 months ago that we'd be in a situation where Porsche is 3 levels up and 30 CS over Surdy on Vayne in like 10 minutes, I'd just call you crazy. But that's the situation where we're at. Of course, the lane swap
swaps
situation
make it a little,
yeah, exactly,
you know.
exactly. The lane swap is the reason why this has happened, but I mean, Surdy not going to be in this game at least for a little while. Once he gets an item or so, once he hits that like maybe level 9 to 10, 11 mark, like that is where we're expecting this Vayne to come online, and that's where we really expect SLU to come out on top. But you know, we're not there just yet, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, you know, some of the criticism that has been thrown towards Porsche and his game, I'm going to hold this thought again, as these teams maybe just wanting to fight one more time.
Dragon started up by Slew. It would be 2-0. They send the teleport in from Darkwings as well to make it a numbers advantage. UST going to respond with Robbie Bob hovering down around the Dragon pit. Dragon at about half HP, Skytech looking for an aggressive hook by taking a lot of damage first. The target has been Trevor, but he fades calls away. There comes Winnie, flashing into the entire enemy team in the shutdown first,
Robbie
goes towards Darkwings. A big shuffle comes out from Robbie, but Aaron's just face taken, and Aaron's winning 2v1. There goes the kill into Trevor. Array's next on the menu, but he flashes under his turret, so Robbie Bob will be the next to fall. It is a big fight win for St. Louis, going 2-0 around the Drake. They're not done just yet, as Array still very, very low at 1 HP. Gonna have to dodge all the skill shots in the world. Piercing arrow comes out.
Oh!
He gets the kill! Array, are you kidding me?
Okay, Array. Well, I mean, you know what? That works out pretty well for the UST AD carry. He's up to 3-0 off of that fight, but it is still an engagement victory for Slew. Kenby, though, he wants round 2. As there's a teleport coming in from Robbie. Trevor on respawn.
When he does have the smite, they're going to go for it, but Kenvy's the one to secure the objective and even up that dragon count at 1. UST not down out of this one just yet, although they are still taking a couple punches.
I think that's worth it for Kenby because you need to force Slew to fight you for dragons. If Slew is up 2 dragons to nothing later on in the game, they can just ignore it and not fight you when you're strong. I think it is worth it to give up the little bit of gold to make that play happen, but still, Slew coming out ultimately ahead in the entire exchange in terms of the kills. Even though they don't get the 1 neutral objective, they will pick up a couple of grubs for themselves. They will get all 6, allowing them to really pressure on the side lanes. That was such a big problem from Surdy last time, and on the Vayne should be able to do the same.
So Grubs in response, we once again have Twitch chatters for St. Louis, despite UST having the focus around the top side of the map this game. So that could potentially allow them to siege better as this game goes forward. Of course, we're still pretty far from that point in time. Surdy's still very far behind in this 1v1 matchup against Portion. Could be targeted once again.
He's got summoners. I think he should be able to get out of this, but having those summoners blown and it being forced to base again would just be so frustrating. They don't really need the kill here if you're UST. Just forcing him off the wave in that state is rough, man. Porsche maintaining a 3-level advantage. And what I was going to say earlier is, you know, one of the criticisms towards Porsche has been, hey, he's very stable and he's very good at doing his job, but sometimes it feels like he doesn't leverage his advantages enough, and he's more than content to just kind of sit there and exist, and you can't do that against a player like Surdy, right? Because Surdy will pressure you at all states of the game, and I think something that Porsche has done very well this series has been pressuring Surdy when he's ahead. We saw it in the Skarner game with the near solo kill early on. Now in this game, maintaining his advantage and keeping the Vayne down.
And even if it's not a kill, right, it's just putting the waves in a good position for Porsche, not a good position for Surdy. Because he has that advantage, he can set those positions up, allow for Kenby to go for those plays towards the Vayne. And even though, you know, Surdy didn't end up getting taken down or burning any summoners in that exchange, still a good tempo play so far for UST. Enchanted Crystal Arrow does land on the Darkwings, who's now caught in a 1v3. The Spiraling Despair comes out, but it is just a bit of chunk damage compared to the rest of UST. It's a shutdown for Array.
It's another big chunk of change out of the Callista's pocket. Once these fights subside, as it was trade of Ghosts in top lane, Caddy, if we can get the gold toggle, shout out Caddy or Observer, because Array, yeah, he's the richest guy in the game, Graves, after all of this.
Hey, some things stay the same, right? It happened last game, and even though he wasn't put in the same position, I mean, he just has had a bunch of really, really nice, you know, plays this game overall to put himself in this spot. You think about the miracle 1v2 dive that happened a couple of minutes ago when Aaron thought he just could auto him and take him down, but Array just said no. And then that big shutdown that they put here onto Darkwing. So Array and Trevor, despite not being in that dream scenario like they were in game number 1, still finding ways to help UST stay in this one. We have a bit of an exchange around the bottom side jungle as Kenby does not get that blue buff, I believe, and so that's going to feel a little bit bad. Winnie, up about 25 CS.
I think Kenby got it. I think it was an early smite that came out from Winnie, if I'm not. Yeah, Kenby, Kenby's got the blue, so a little bit of a mental win, and I mean, ballsy to stand in there against the Nautilus, knowing he has his team coming off deployment to back him up if a fight does break out. And I mean, it's an even game state now at this point. However, Slew, they still have the scaling. They still have the team fighting. Double marksman composition with good front line and its setup. And for Array, you know, outside of him, his entire team is behind. Array pretty far ahead in his own right, but lethality Callista here in game 2, very difficult to 1v9 the game with this build. You do a lot of damage to squishy targets, don't get me wrong, but getting the AoE, it's just difficult to be a sole carry for his team.
We'll say not a lot of tanks on the Slew team this time around. There's no Sejuani to try to burn through. It's just a Nautilus on Skytech's side. So if Array can use this lethality power
like, let's
spike,
be real with the ult.
Yeah, but he's not taking any damage anyway if you just press
that's true.
the R
yeah,
button, right?
Yeah, he's just time buying.
I mean, if USD can use Callista in this situation, in these mid-game fights, so maybe one-shot a crucial target, get themselves a numbers advantage for Robbie Bob, I think that is what they have to leverage right now.
Yeah.
They are even in gold, but again, as we've said, while the game continues on, as we get towards later and later points, SLU just have the better composition overall.
Yeah, Robbie Bob yet to really arrive in this game. If he is able to, you know, UST could very easily win this game with how fed Array is. You have that 1-2 punch in the Callista's ear. Just don't think it can be Array alone. But SLU, again, the thing about Dragons is you can make wise choices like this. It's a big spike time, 2 items on Array for UST. And the Billikens opt to just clear their jungle camps, fix their waves. They even took a bot tier 1 and not opt into the big team fight. Marty, somewhere in the Discord channel right now, Graves, he's sighing in relief.
So it'll be 2 for 1 in terms of the Drakes as Candy picks it up. Does create a situation where SLU might be on a bit of a timer. Yeah, or, you know, in comparison to before. Like, they got to get to their power spikes maybe a little bit earlier.
Kennedy gave his life for that dragon. Don't you forget it.
Yeah. I mean, they're in a position now, though, that they'll be able to get to those spikes faster just because they are not significantly far behind, right? So
yeah, it's true.
That is the win for them. They do have the Rift Herald as well here. Winnie does place this one. And there's a couple of options. I would think mid lane is the easiest one. And UST gonna head top lane to try to take Surdy down. Once again, a trade of ghosts. Oh, the Condemn was blocked by the Pathmaker, and that forces the flash away. Here comes the ultimate out of Kenvi. Remember, there's no top lane turret for Surdy to go under. And so he's got to run his way all the way back to base himself. Does survive in a 3v1, and that allows for that mid lane tower to go down.
Surdy is doing a really great job in this game of surviving the pressure that is being thrown his way. I mean, just such a great top laner for SLU. But the thing is, he's still only a level 9 Vayne, and the game plan of shutting down Surdy and not letting him play his game. I mean, remember, Colin around the desk said that was the win condition for SLU. Going according to plan for UST, as now it's a fight in bot.
Winnie just able to survive. Teleport forced out from Porsche. The bottom lane tier 2 still not going down as St. Louis unable to take the objective down until the minions finish the job. Here comes Array. Nice usage of that stun by Darkwings to get people away, but here comes the engage on the other side. Trevor still will go down as Aaron snipes him with the piercing arrow as Winnie is the response. Just a 1-for-1, but a nice chunk of cash going towards SLU in the form of that bottom lane turret.
And SLU's going to be perfectly happy with how that one went. A 1-for-1 with Aaron picking up the kill, trade of only their jungler, and they get 2 towers for it. Yes, it is more attention thrown to Surdy. Yes, it is the big top lane carry of SLU, the one that was meant to elevate them this year, that is getting shut down. But you cannot forget everybody else on this team. NACL players in the last calendar year, Grapes. This is SLU showing up, and now they're back up 2K off of the towers that were taken.
I mean, we forget because of how good UST has been in this tournament specifically, but St. Louis, they were ranked number 2 right behind Maryville for the majority of the calendar year. You know, people thought this wildcard gaming core that competed in the NACL alongside Surdy, who might be one of the best players outside of the LCS, should do pretty good. But right now, like, I think a lot of people are probably favoring UST in this matchup. These are still a lot of really, really talented players from St. Louis, and, you know, we are waiting for them to really come together in this lower bracket. The boot camp has helped them a lot in terms of just building some synergy. And right now, they're in a good game state, and they're in a position to take this series against the defending champs and put themselves in that position to finally try to claim a CLOL championship.
Grapes, you talk about, you know, 0-8 all-time for SLU against UST, right? And I will say, you know, to put some, you know, seeds of doubt, perhaps, in your minds, if SLU cannot win from this position, I don't know if they'll ever be UST. I feel like this is the game that they have to win. No, it is not hard winning, and it is not won. But you are in a great spot, and here's the time to put up and say, hey, we can contend with the defending champs. We came in second place in all of the fall lands for a reason. That was before Surdy was on the team. We are the second seed out of North for a reason. We are in top 3 for a reason. This is the moment to prove it if you are SLU. We have crested the 20-minute mark. Their carries are starting to come online. 2 items for Darkwings and Aaron each. Let's see the team fights.
It's been a lot of wanting to prove themselves for St. Louis throughout their, albeit young history, right? It's been, you know, the little brother to Maryville argument that, you know, they've taken them down a couple of times here and there, but the only thing that they have officially won throughout their tenure has, I guess, been like the Immortals Winter Showcase from last year. At least
Right.
that's what I'm remembering. And that was a tournament where a lot of players, including Slew, were using different rosters. And so still looking for that first big win as a squad. And I think they do have the roster to do it. And this is their moment. As you said, they're in a good game state right now. We see 2 items completed for
Darkwings is strong.
Winnie, Darkwings, and Aaron. And we're looking for that dragon to be the next attempt for St. Louis to make a play.
And I would really like to see them fight for this dragon. Don't give this one over. I know, ideally you can just wait it out even longer for UST to potentially fall off, but you're strong now, and letting the game go to Soul Point uncontested would be so dangerous. Slew, they're the ones first into the river, setting up the vision. Most of UST's control is focused topside. Not going to be where this engagement does transpire. And let's remember, I mean, UST, they don't have the safest initiation. Somebody's got to get in there unless it's an Ash Arrow landing. UST, if you can play, or rather Slew, they can play on Vision. Could be a huge benefit.
Here's the engage. They're going to start it up first. A big depth charge does land from
That can
Skytech,
be.
and that allowed the jungler for UST to fall. So far, a 4v5. Another hook lands. Skytech finding them all. Trevor will go down as well. 2-0 St. Louis. They could go to the dragon, or they can turn their sights towards the base.
Skytech might have protested a little bit last game on the Nautilus, but this game, he has been brilliant, Grapes. 0-1-8, finding some critical hooks, particularly onto Trevor. And I've got to say, bit of a mistake from UST. We just talked about how, they have to be intelligent about the way that they're face checking into Slew and walking in without all their ducks in a row. First, it's Kenby that gets picked off, and then Trevor to boot. They will be able to secure the dragon, but that's only because Slew getting the Baron for themselves to try to take full control over this second game.
They give up Soul Point, which could be a little bit dangerous if you are St. Louis, but the price that you pay in response, if you are UST, is that Gen G Baron buff. Slew going to pick that one up, and now we have to see them on a timer a little bit, right, Hawk? We have about 2.5 minutes or so where we really want to see St. Louis pick up at least a couple of towers here.
At least. I mean, Surdy already working on that top lane tier 1. They've already gotten so many towers as well, by the way, Grapes. This is their 5th tower of the game. It's only top tier 2 that stands outside of UST's base. And, if they can break open the base, that's even a bigger advantage. But as long as they can take that one down, they'll be up like 6,000 gold when it's all said and done at like 25, 26 minutes, should they take that one out. That is more than enough for Slew to hopefully win this game without any massive miscues.
To the mid lane we go. Chain of Corruptions lands here onto Kenby. Aaron is so strong at this point, nearly taking the Rek'Sai down himself. Enchanted Crystal Arrow does land onto Skytech, but that's all the trades that UST have to offer. The Sun Disc is in mid lane, so that will help save the base for just a little bit, but St. Louis still in a very good position. They have a wave bottom, and they're going to push that one up with Darkwing by their side.
Yeah, UST's a little cut off from this one. I don't think they'll be able to break this tower, though. Trevor does still have the... no, he does not have the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, rather, so... way to get onto him. UST, they're wanting him out of contest, but Trevor's squishy.
Winnie going straight forward into 4 members of UST, and he knows that he can survive because the rest of the team is by his side. Kenby once again falls. Here comes Sturdy on the flank, forcing the flash away from Trevor. Robbie Bob now in trouble, Shuffle not landing on anybody. He condemns Robbie into the wall, and now Sturdy has to dash away. Array gonna match with a flash of his own and take down the Vayne. Now unstoppable here in this game. Darkwings forcing Porsche to dash over the wall. Slew still maintaining control, trying to threaten this UST base.
Yeah, getting a little bit goofy right there. Winnie goes far forward. Grapes, you might not think that Xin Zhao is a true tank, but with the Crescent Guard, he can oftentimes buy even more time than an Ornn. Phase tanking his way in there, able to take down Kenby, but Surdy too far forward on the other side. Ultimately, though, it is Slew breaking the base. They find that 5,000-6,000 gold advantage that we expected. They are in full control of this second game. We've said it once. I'm going to say it again. Slew, if you can't close this one out, maybe UST is just your boogeyman. They are in a great spot to win this game.
Genji Baron buff proven fruitful, right, Hawk? They got a tower top. They got the inhibitor tower down bottom lane. No inhibitor just yet, but that might be the next thing that they try to target if a Baron comes up again. If they are able to win another fight, potentially around that dragon, that will again be Soul Point for UST, and that's the trade-off that we talked about here, Hawk. UST now in a position where they can secure the Ocean Soul, and while they do have an early game composition, that could prove pretty impactful for them if they pick this up.
Yeah, Winnie as well on the Xin Xiao, off to Sejuani, the captain of SLU, so often leading the charge. Maybe sometimes to his own doom, Grapes, but him and Skytech, that dynamic duo from the AoE days, playing together for quite a long time at this point. They are playing brilliantly in this game, and Darkwings as well, longtime teammate of Winnie's. He is taking one over Robbie Bob in this game for feels like the first time in a while. Spyrax is the only mid laner in this tournament that has been able to overcome Robbie up to this point. Darkwings getting it done and coming alive in this series.
Still a little bit left to go. St. Louis, they're in a good position, but they have to close out. It's a very similar situation, like as we said with UST in game number 1, albeit in a bit of a different situation in terms of the compositions that they have. And so right now, the play for UST, maybe farm up a little bit. We are nearing that third item for Robbie. That could be where he really finally comes alive. Because, Hawk, we've had a lot of talk about Robbie Bob and how great his tournament has been. Haven't seen much of it here this game.
Yeah, he's just not really been able to wake up. He had that one really nice shuffle at 6 minutes into the game, and that was about it. He's just been kept down. SLU has been too fast in their fights, and UST, particularly around that big dragon fight where, SLU ultimately converted into a Baron, that was not even a fight. It was just SLU running them down. Darkwings, though, okay, maybe a bit of a caster curse here. Can he get Dark Robbie?
Misses the ulti onto Robbie. That would have been the 1-for-1 trade, but instead, a big shutdown going the way of Porsche. St. Louis going to try to counteract by pushing up on the mid lane. Surdy ghosting in as well. They want to make sure this mid lane inhibitor tower falls.
Okay,
Surdy going to fight a 1v2 onto Array, going very aggressive into the base of UST, still dashing forward, still dishing out damage. Is the mid lane inhib tower falling, but still numbers advantage for UST. Here comes Porsche on the teleport. Knockup does land from Skytech. It is on to Trevor. Robbie Bob already goes down before the ultimate has been used, and Kenvi now in trouble as well. Surdy gets the kill. It's 2-0 in a 4v5, and St. Louis aren't done just yet. They're going on to Porsche. They knock him up with the 3 talent strike, and it will be a third kill for the Billikens going the way of Surdy.
And this time around, it doesn't matter how hard you keep him down. Surdy's still going to make his presence felt as he is diving into the base. It's Winnie and Skytech creating the space. And Grapes, I think for the first time in their history, St. Louis University is going to take a game over St. Thomas.
Trevor in trouble now. Winnie will flash forward, get the knockup onto Array. The curse finally has been lifted, and have it be known, nobody will take down St. Louis University 9 times in a row. They get the win in this game number 2 and even up our series at 1.
What a way to do it as well. St. Louis clearly learning from their shortcomings in game 1. This time, a lane swap happens yet again, much to our dismay. But it was St. Louis that stepped up and got the advantage, and they did not open the door again. Playing calm, cool, and collected, taking the fights that mattered most to break open their advantage when they knew that they could. UST having no way back in. And, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else, we have a series. It is on my hands. I could not be more excited for our amazing conclusion of the lower bracket here in CLOL.
Man, the macro play in the mid to late game for St. Louis really did work. It seemed like every time UST tried to make a play, St. Louis had the answer for it. Even right there, a 3v1 in the top side, shutting down Darkwings, and Winnie leading the charge. That's the captain of this team, man. He dashes straight down mid lane and just ends the game himself. And so, we are tied up at 1-1. St. Louis finally taking a game off of the defending champions. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, it'll be game 3 between these two powerhouses.